welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of our subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I thank you for your love and for your support. Okay, guys, if you are new to the channel, you are highly and very welcome. If you have not subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button and then hit on the bell also to get an update whenever I upload a new video. Okay, so guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew a corset with the free hand. So yeah, we're not going to be making use of any pattern today, so we're going to be cutting it and sewing a corset the freehand method. So if you want to register for our online classes, you can see my number scrolling through the screen. Just send me a message on WhatsApp and then I'll give you the details of the classes that we have available. So now let's get started. So the materials that I'm going to be making use for this corset, for our freehand corset, I have my Ankara fabric. You can use any fabric of your choice. You can make use of a lace, a satin, depends on what you want. And then I've got my lining here, of course, my bra cups. I have my boning. I'm going to be making use of the Regeline boning. That's the one that is sewable. And then I have my bias and then any other of your sewing tools. So the first thing we're going to do now, we're going to be working on our lining. We're not going to be working on our actual fabric, so that actually makes it easier. Okay, so now we're going to be taking all of our markings. So the first mark that I have here, I'm going to be marking my bust point line, which is 10 inches. And then I'll mark my under bust 13 and half. And then the half cut, that's my waist measurement, is 17. So I have my full length, which is 21 inches for my corset. So I'll just bust point, under bust, waist, and then full length. So this is my full length. So the next thing, I'm going to come to this point. I'll mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7, 14. I'll add 1 inch allowance, and then from this point I'll mark my armhole. So for the armhole, I'm making use of 8 inches. So I've marked the 8 inches, that's the 8 inches line, and then I'm just going to curve it like this. So after curving it, from this point I'm going to insert my bust measurement. So for the bust measurement, I'm making use of 36. When you divide 36 into 4, you have 9. This is 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll add 3 inches as my allowance because I'm making use of a free hand. So I'll add it like that. And then I'll come to the under bust line. This is our under bust line. I'll mark my under bust measurement, which is 32, 8 inches. And then I'm going to come to this point. I'll add my stitching allowance also. I'll mark it like this. And then I'll add my waist measurement, divide by 4, and then I'll add my allowance. So I'll just mark it down, and then the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to insert my dart. So for the dart, I'm going to come to this point. So for the dart, I'll make use of 4 inches for my dart, which is my bust span measurement. I'm just going to mark it like this to the under bust line. I'll mark it down, and then I'll take out half inch, just the same way you take out your normal dart. Okay, so now we're good to go. So the next thing we're going to take our bra cup. I'm going to place my bra cup on my under bust line like this. So that's my under bust line. So on this center part like this, I'm going to mark half of an inch. So that's half of an inch, and then you just place it like this. So it's a very simple process. That's just the truth. And then you mark it like this. Just create a beautiful curve. So that inch, I'm just going to extend it a little bit upwards. I'll mark it like this, and then from this part I'm just going to blend it into my armhole points like this. You understand? Just blend it, let it blend nicely. So after blending it into that point, I'm going to I'm going to create a neckline for this. So in creating a neckline, because so you are going to still make sure you double check your measurement. So you see, make sure you check your bust point and then the under bust point, let it sit nicely. So the next thing I'm going to do now, from this point, I'm just going to come up a little bit because I really don't want my corset to be too exposed. You understand? So I'm going to come up with about 2 inches, just 2 inches. So from that 2 inches, I'm going to create, I'll take this off now. From that 2 inches, this is my armhole point. So from the top part of my armhole, I'm just going to create like a sweetheart curve into that 2 inches point like that. So this automatically gives me, create out a sweetheart neckline for the top part and then cut out a yoke. So if you want to add a yoke on this corset. So that is how simple it is to cut a corset with your free hand. So we'll go ahead now, we're going to cut out. So you cut. So if you are going to be making use of a yoke, this is your yoke. So I'm going to cut, and then for my bra cups, there's something, since I'm making use of free hand. Normally, if you are making use of a pattern, you are going to cut half of an inch upward. But for this, I'm going to cut as much as 1 inch upwards on this part. So once it gets to this other side, I can reduce it to half of an inch. But from this center point, I will come up with 1 inch. So that is what I'm going to cut. I'm not going to cut directly. So please note, if not, it's going to be too big. So I'm going to come like this now to cut that part. I'm going to come, remember that half of an inch that I said on this side. So I'm not cutting here, I'll just cut. I came up 1 inch. So you can see what I have. So for my darts, I'm just going to notch my darts. I'll notch them. Okay. So you can see my corset all well cut out without a pattern. So for this corset, now if I want to add a basque waistline to it, because I did not add the pattern that I used, that's my lining was not long. So for this, you can actually add a basque waistline like this in case you want to add. So what you are just going to do is just trace it out and make your basque on it, and then just still trace it out and cut it. So I hope you understand. Okay, so that's for that. So for the back, I'm just going to go ahead. I'll place, just do my normal basic back, my basic bodice. Okay, so for my back pattern, so I just place my corset here and then just cut out the back piece. And then I'm going to go ahead. I'll add my darts. Because I'm going to be looping the back, so that is why you see that both of them are the same. So I did not add any zipper allowance to the back pattern because I'm going to add loops to the back. So because I even want to add loops, I'm still going to go ahead and still reduce my back pattern. I'll reduce it with another 2 inches. So I'll cut that off. So this is my back pattern, and then this is my front pattern. So my front pattern, like I said, I wanted to have a basque waistline. So I just placed it here, just like I explained, and then cut out to create my basque waistline because this one was not long enough. So I'll just take this off now. So this is the one we're going to be working on. So this now, I'm going to transfer this now to my fabric. Okay guys, so you can see I finished cutting them. So you will notice even on my pattern, while that's on my actual fabric, I still left a little bit of allowance, so to make sure that the back of the opening is not too wide. Okay, so please take into consideration. So I'm going to go ahead and open my dart legs now. So I'm just going to open it up to that point. So when I'm stitching, I'll take them out completely. So I'm going to do that. So for the back piece, so this is my dart. I'm going to add the dart, this normal straight dart. So for the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to cut out fabric that we'll use to cover our bra cuff. So I have my fabric, it is folded into 4. So I'm just going to do like this. I'm going to use 7 inches all round because I want it to cover properly. So after marking it round like this, I'll cut it out. And then I'll take out the dart from the center. So that is the center. I'll take 1 inch to the left and then 1 inch to the right. So from this, I'll come just take the center And then I'll go ahead, I'll mark this, I'll mark it like this, and then mark it. You take the same 1 inch. You can actually do half inch if you want to. And then I'll curve it to this point like this. So I want my cup to balance properly. So that is why I'm taking out those dots. So this is what I'll use to cover my bra cup. So I'll stitch it together and then use it to turn it out. So I'll do the same thing on the fabric. If you want to use another pattern of fabric, that's maybe like a satin, you can actually go ahead and do that. So the next thing, we're going to go to our sewing table. We'll go and stitch. So it is a simple process for those of you that have been following me. So what we are going to go and do, first of all, you close back your dart legs, and then I'll create boning casing on it. So for that, I'm not going to do that in this video because I don't want the video to be too long and I don't want to divide the video into two. So I'll drop the link if you don't know how to add boning to your corsets. I'll drop the link in the description box on how to do that, just to create them. So for this, I'm going to add one here. So I'm just going to explain how I'm going to add my own. I'm going to add one here, and then on this center also I'm going to add one. So this center part, you can decide to open it up. Most times I like opening up, so it actually gives it a good balance. So I'll open this up. So I'll stitch that back. So I'll join that back, I'll join this point back, and then this point I'll join, and then I'll add boning on this two sides here. That's three parts. So I'll go ahead, I'll go and stitch it and then come back and show you. So the back is just a straightforward one. I'm just going to hold the dart part, and then I'll create the loops. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, let's start with the back piece. So for the back, so I've added my dart. So I'm going to add my loop before I turn it. So for the loops, you can decide to, so I'm using about 4 inches loops that I cut out. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take all of my loops, I'll place them like this. I just at intervals. So you can see how I'm placing them. So that's how I'm going to place them, and then I'm going to stitch them scattered all over the back part. I finished stitching, so you are going to place the lining. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it all out. So with that, I'm done with the back piece already, and then we'll work on the front wall. Okay, so for the front piece, so I've joined my dart legs. So the next thing, I'm going to create my boning casing, just like I explained earlier on. So I'm going to drop a link, a more detailed link of video of how to actually do this on the description box. Okay, so I finished creating the casing with my bias. So I'm going to pass my boning through that part. So before then, I've gone ahead, I've covered one bra cup. So I'm going to show you how I did. So the same thing that I did on my with my bias. So that's what I did on my dart lines of my bra cup. So in covering the bra cup, all you're just going to do is to just literally wrap this piece of fabric around the cup. So that's just what I'm doing, and then secure it down. So make sure when you're doing it, make sure it does not have any excess. So make sure that this point here, the dart point, let it be on the side of the bra cup. So place it and then you pin it, and then I'll go ahead and just pin all of them around like that, and then I'll secure it down with my machine. So for the bra cup, you can actually contour your bra cup. So you can actually do that. So but this, I decided to leave it this way. So I'll just go ahead, I'll finish pinning, and then I'll sew it around just like I explained, and then we'll connect it on the corset. Okay, so I finished turning them. So the next thing now, I'm going to go ahead and fix them. So you see how it is sitting perfectly here. So I'll just go ahead now and stitch them. So you take it from the center of the cup. So you can make a notch and then you start stitching. So you stitch it round from there and then to this side. I'll go ahead, I'll do that and then turn with our lining. Okay guys, so welcome back to our table. So you can see our corset. It is looking good and okay. So you can see the inside. So I'm going to cut my boning now. So the boning, this one is a little bit too big, so I'm going to still separate them into two before placing it inside. Okay, so you can see, so I finished adding my boning. So the next thing, just make sure you take your final shape. Since we did not use a pattern for this, so actually did that before adding my boning. So you take your final shape, that is the final measurement. You measure your bust, under bust, waist. So I've gone ahead, I've done that. So I'm going to shape out my basque waistline. So for the back, I did not add any boning on the back part. So I finished stitching. I just opened that part so that I'll be able to turn it out from the side. So I'll place this. Make sure, since it is a basque waistline, so I can use one. Just place it and then you trim it. So it's make sure that the side that they match. So it is actually better to do this before adding the boning. So I'll go ahead now, turn it with my lining. So you can see it is really looking beautiful. I'm just going to take my lining now and then I'll go ahead. I'll turn it around and then I'll join the back to the front. So I'm just going to show you how to join it. So it's going to be joined like this. So this one is going to be here like this. And then I don't know why they're flying around. And then this one is going to be here like this. So I'll go ahead, I'll do that. And then after joining it, I'll turn it and then I'll place it on the mannequin for you to see. So at the end of the day, you can see that it is really possible to cut and sew a corset with free hand. So that's what we were able to achieve from this tutorial. Okay guys, so at the end of the day, you can see how our corset is looking. Actually really came out really beautifully well. So these are the boning. I'm going to iron them properly later so it relaxes properly. So at the end of the day, you can see that it is actually possible to cut and sew a corset with your free hand without making use of a pattern paper. So if you want to add a sleeve, you can add any sleeve of your choice to this corset. So thank you so much. If you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button. And if you have not subscribed to Stylish Naija YouTube channel, please subscribe to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video. God bless you. Bye.